إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبتي إني رأيت أحد عشر كوكبا والشمس والقمر. He comes to his father and he tells him that, my beloved father, there isn't any doubt I saw 11 stars and the sun and the moon. So he repeats I saw twice. It happened in the beginning of the ayah. Inni ra'aytu, and as a matter of fact, ana is twice for those of you who know Arabic. I saw them for sure. And then by the time he says 11 stars, the sun and the moon, he starts over again and says, I saw them, one more time, before he completes his statement, li sajidin. One of the things it can suggest is a child, when they're sharing something, sometimes they're nervous. And when they're nervous, they repeat themselves. Your child comes up to you, something happened at school, or something happened in the playground, and you say, what happened? And you say, I was playing, and then what happened? And I was playing, and then, and they repeat their words because they're trying to get to the part that might get them in trouble, or the part that's hard to talk about, or the part that's a little bit shocking for them or traumatizing for them. So Yusuf alayhi sees this dream as a child. He comes to his dad, he's nervous about this dream. The fact that he began with inni, for those of you who know the Arabic language a little bit, inna harfun li izalati shak. It's used to remove doubt, like he's telling his dad a dream, but he thinks even his dad might not believe him. It's too incredible, too crazy of a thing that he saw, that maybe my dad won't even believe me. So he says, no, really I did see it. I saw 11 stars, the sun and the moon. And then he says, رَأَيْتُهُمْ, which is the strangest language. In English translation of this ayah, they say, I saw them prostrating before me. Meaning I saw the stars, the sun and the moon doing sajda to me. But the Arabic of it is very different. The word رَأَيْتُهُمْ, the pronoun hum, which is translated they, is not used for inanimate objects. If it was for the stars and the moon, the two options in Arabic would have been رَأَيْتُهُنَّ لِي سَاجِدَاتٍ or رَأَيْتُهَا لِي سَاجِدَةٍ. The way he spoke suggests that he already knew that it's not actually the stars, the sun and the moon, it's actually people. Because the wording he used is wording used in Arabic only for people. It's لِذَوِي الْعُقُولِ. So when he said this to his father, they're doing sajda to me, they're prostrating because of me, they're falling on the ground. This was the part that he found so shocking. And his father, when he responds to him, realizes in the way that the son told him the dream, the way that he expressed himself. This kid is so smart. Not only did he see a special dream, he interpreted it all on his own in the way that he described it. So the interpretation has already happened. Seeing a dream is not an accomplishment, but seeing a dream and then having the intelligence and the insight and the wisdom to figure out what it means, now that's a pretty amazing accomplishment. Allah decides to highlight this one dialogue between Yusuf and his father. Of all the things he could have highlighted, he highlights this dialogue. Instead of what you would think is a major event, it's just a small conversation. And in this conversation, Yusuf alayhi salam is just expressing a dream that he saw, but his father validates him immediately. First of all, he warns him, لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا. Don't tell this dream that you saw of yours to your brothers. Yusuf alayhi salam already knows, Yaqub alayhi salam already knows, this has something to do with your brothers. Don't tell your brothers. I know they're part of this dream. You already know that too. Don't talk about this to your brothers. They already have a jealousy problem. They're going to scheme something against you. Now he's a child. Sometimes you say we shouldn't have negative conversations in front of children. We should shield them, protect them. But sometimes it's in their best interest to know who's good for them and who's not good for them. Which uncle to stay away from. Which brother to stay away from sometimes. Not every family situation is ideal. And sometimes parents don't want to hear. Sometimes children come and say, my brother did this, or my sister did this, or this one did this, or this one. And he said, I don't want to hear it. Stop talking. I don't want to deal with anything. You know, a friend of mine used to say back, he was from Algeria. They have joint family system. So they've got the guy living there, his wife is living there, their kids are living there, his brother's living there, his wife and their kids. There's like 30 kids in the house, and there's like 4 or 5 different couples, and they're all fighting, and all kinds of drama is happening all day in the house. But then the grandfather walks home, and everybody's happy all of a sudden. All the problems are gone, because the grandfather had a policy, if anybody has any fight, I'm going to line all of you up and slap all of you. The fathers, the mothers, the children, everybody's going to get slapped. The idea being sometimes we don't want to hear it, or we don't want to deal with a conflict that actually exists. Sometimes there are members of our family that have a problem, that have an anger problem, that have a jealousy problem, that have a verbal abuse problem. Sometimes they have a physical abuse problem. Sometimes they have a scheming and lying problem. People have problems. And who knows family better than family? And so if you have to look out for someone, sometimes you even have to look out for your own sibling. It happens. And this father has the sense to know, listen, you need to look out for your brothers. Don't be naive. You're young, they're older. But don't talk about these kinds of things with them. لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك. They might hurt you in some way. And it's not their fault entirely. إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين. The devil is a pretty big enemy, pretty open enemy for human beings. The devil's not just there between you and some stranger. The devil wants to destroy family relationships. He wants to create animosity between brother and brother, brother and sister, father and son, mother and daughter, mother and son, etc. These family relationships is where the shaitan is active. That's what he wants to destroy first. What's the best way to destroy humanity? Destroy the unit that holds humanity together, the family. So the shaitan is most active in the family. He's most active between parents and kids. He's most active between husband and wife or siblings. That's where he's most active. These blood ties or these sacred ties, that's what he wants to destroy first. If these are destroyed, what's left of humanity? Then it's all gone. The protection that family brings is gone. So he's successful in his scheme. First thing that Yaqub tells his son is what to be careful about. And that's again something we learn about us and our children. We have to warn our kids about things they should be careful about. And we should also be warning our kids about people in our own family sometimes that may be toxic. That's important. It's actually a sunnah of a prophet now. It's a sunnah so important it was recorded in the Quran to let our kids know. Sometimes, not everybody in the family is okay. And Ramadan happens, and after Ramadan, Eid happens, and Eid, all the family gets together, and some of the crazy uncles come too, and some of the wild cousins come too, and everybody's together. And sometimes you gotta let your kids know ahead of time, here's the people you gotta stay away from. Here's what you have to be careful about. You have to warn them and educate them. It's the real world, you have to prepare them. So our kids are not naive, and they don't just, in their naivete, trust anybody. Because anybody can harm them. And if this surah in the beginning teaches us anything, is that family is not necessarily a safe place. Don't be naive. That's something even the Quran is telling us in very explicit terms. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ. That is how Allah has especially chosen you. Your master, your nurturing master has chosen you. Ijtiba in Arabic is used when someone is chosen for something based on a skill that they have, based on some qualification that they have. To give you an example, if I just go to the store and pick out a blue shirt, I could have picked a white shirt, I could have picked a green shirt, I picked a blue shirt. That's not ijtiba, that's istifa. But when you hire someone for a job, when you hire a cook at a restaurant, you hire the best cook, you don't just say, this guy's wearing a blue shirt, you got the job. That's not how that works. You got to hire the best cook. That's called ijtiba, the right kind of choice, for the right kind of job. So when someone's qualified to do the work and you select them, or even if you're working on your car or something and you need a certain tool, you pick the right tool for the right kind of screw. When you make that right selection, that's called ijtiba. When he uses this word for Yusuf alayhi salam, he's telling his son, you have a skill. You have good qualities in you. And those qualities are the basis on which Allah is choosing you for a special task. And then he starts telling him, not only, what skill is that? وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. Allah will teach you, it seems, Allah is going to be teaching you how to interpret all kinds of speech. Not just dreams. You're able to figure things out, what people say and what's behind what people say. Sometimes people say one thing, but it's something behind it. Another reality behind it. He's going to make you highly intelligent at analyzing speech. يُعَلِّمُكَ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ. And Allah will complete His favor on you, meaning you have a great future ahead of you. You have a fantastic future ahead of you. Now this is the talk father is giving to his son. That Allah has chosen you, you have a special skill. Then you're going to learn to interpret all kinds of speech. You're very intelligent. Allah will complete His favor. I'm sure Allah has a great future planned for you. Then He says, كَمَا أَتَمَّهَا عَلَى أَبَوَيْكَ. And it's the same kind of future, perfection of Allah's favor that Allah gave to your ancestors, Ibrahim, Ishaq. Meaning, you are part of a proud legacy. You're going to make your ancestors proud. These few words were so important. Why I highlighted these words? Because soon after this conversation, Yusuf alayhi salam has been kidnapped. And soon after that, he will not see his father again. His entire youth, his childhood, is going to be spent in a non-Muslim family. He's going to be a servant in a non-Muslim family. There's no Islamic influence. He's not going to go to Islamic school. He's not going to have a masjid access. He's not going to have any sort of Muslim community environment. He's going to be in Egypt, where they don't worship Allah, actually. And he's going to live in a politician's house. So if normal people's house, you might not see all that corruption, but he lives in a politician's house. who's got a psychotic wife on top of that. And he's a servant with no adult moral supervision. Servants, they serve their master and do whatever, but in their free time, they're free to do whatever they want. At least if for a child there should be some kind of parental guidance, there is going to be no parental guidance. There's going to be no societal guidance. The society is a bad environment. And by the way, after spending some years in that negative environment, he's going to get falsely accused. And he's going to end up in jail for a few years. And what kind of positive environment is there inside of a jail? What kind of people is he around? He's around criminals for several years. He's not around some positive atmosphere that is going to cultivate his personality and bring him some goodness. What we learn is no matter what negative environment he found himself in, he was able to hold on to his religion. He was able to hold on to the strength of his faith, all from what? From the validating words that his father gave him as a child. When his father told him that you have a bright future, Allah has chosen you, Allah has honored you, Allah has given you a special status, Allah sees something in you, you have a brilliant future. When he internalized that as a child, he's able to take that light, and doesn't matter what darkness is around him, it doesn't make him dark. He's still got that light inside of him. And why is that important to highlight for you and me? Because we have to be careful what we tell our kids. We have to be careful how we talk to our kids. One time I met a fellow who told me he was doing some work in my house. He told me, "Brother, can you help me with a question?" I said, "What's your question?" He goes, "My son, he's got an anger problem. He punches the wall when he comes home. He kicks things. He yells and screams. I don't know what's going on with him." I was like, "What happened recently?" And he says, "We recently moved from one city to another." It's like, "Okay, so he lost all of his friends and he's in a new school. Do you know if they're bullying him at school? Do you know if they're making fun of him? What's going on with him?" He goes, "I don't know. Let's talk to his mother knows. I don't know anything." It's like, there's already a problem. You've got the legacy of Yaqub alayhi salam, who doesn't have to ask his son comes and tells him, because that's how comfortable father and son are with each other. If we were to take a step back and say, what is it that you would like to tell your son or daughter that you're proud of in them? That you see that Allah has given them a gift, something that validates them, makes them feel like they're proud. How many sons and daughters around the world are there starving, dying, for the one time their mom or their dad will say, "Son, I'm proud of you. Daughter, I'm proud of you. Allah has given you such a talent. Allah has blessed you. I am so proud to call you my son or my daughter." There are people that die for this, and they don't get it from their parents. And even if they get it, like if, for example, one time the daughter decides that she's going to cook something for the first time, she's going to learn to cook to make her mom proud. And she finally learns to cook and make something good, and everybody likes it. The mom says, "It's good." Finally, huh? Had to throw something in. You have to throw something, because it took you long enough. Couldn't make anything else, right? You have to throw something negative in, not just the positive. On the one hand, what we learn from the legacy of Yaqub alayhi salam is we can't make our children blind to the negative around them. But we don't make them feel like they're worthless. We have to validate them. We have to inspire them. We have to give them positive words. Those few positive words you say to your children and you say to your family, you don't know what dark environment they find themselves in, and those words are the only reason they don't fall into darkness. You see? That's a pretty critical thing. It's a really serious thing. I would give this khutbah in theory, but I've seen it. I've seen young people make the most terrible mistakes in their life and resent their parents. And when you dig down into it, when they're engaged in all kinds of haram, you would think I should give them a conversation about don't do haram, fear Allah, you should fear the akhirah, etc. Yes, all of that's true, but there's something else going on that led them down that dark path. What led them down that dark path is, man, my dad always criticized me. All I heard at home was something negative, so I just didn't want to deal with it. When the shaitan is able to create that negativity inside the home, then young people, your sons and your daughters, are going to find friends and find environments where people appreciate them, where people like something about them, where people make them feel comfortable, where people make them feel validated. They feel like they're worth something here. When they find that, you'll find that they're spending less time at home, more time outside. Less time at home, more time outside. And by the time they're old enough and they're coming home at 2, 3, and 4 in the morning, and you're losing your mind, what's happening with you? They say, I can't talk to you. I don't want to deal with your negativity, Mom. I can't deal with your comments. Please save it. And you're in shock. What just happened? My child was so good. They were so quiet. They never talked back. And all of a sudden, look at how they're talking to me. Maybe I should take them to the imam. Maybe I should take them to somebody and they can recite some Quran and blow on them and then they'll be fine. That's not what happened. You weren't there to validate them when they were younger. You weren't there for a real conversation when they were younger. This will brew inside them silently until it erupts eventually. That's human beings. That's not just your child or my child. That's human beings. That's human nature. And so what we're learning in the surah is something very powerful. By the way, by contrast, it's not just positive words that Yusuf ﷺ experiences. He experiences negativity too. His brothers don't like him. I'm sure he hears negative things from his brothers. And many years later, after surviving all of those trials, he's a minister. And his brothers are standing in front of him. And they don't even know that that's their younger brother that they tried to kill. They have no idea. And when the entire fiasco happens with his youngest brother being accused of stealing, what did these brothers say? Listen to this carefully. What did they say even then? They said, قَالُوا إِنْ يَسْرِقْ فَقَدْ سَرَقَ أَخٌ لَهُ مِنْ قَبْلِ. They said, they're standing in front of Yusuf. They don't know it's Yusuf. And they're looking straight at him and saying, oh, if this one stole, he used to have a brother. He had a stealing problem too. They're telling Yusuf that Yusuf was a thief. And they don't even know they're insulting him to his face. Meaning they used to be degrading and demeaning before. And what does Allah say about Yusuf a.s.? He says, when he heard these words, فَأَسَرَّهَا يُوسُفُ فِي نَفْسِهِ. Yusuf kept the feelings he had to himself. The rage he felt, the sadness he felt, the cut and the slander he felt from his own family, he kept it to himself. وَلَمْ يُبْدِهَا لَهُمْ. And he didn't let them see even the look on his face. He kept control and calm. And said to himself, قَالَ أَنْتُمْ شَرٌّ مَكَانًا. You're even worse than you used to be. You're even worse. Meaning Yusuf a.s. remembers the pain they caused back then. He's an adult. He's gone through many negative things. He's gone through being sold as a slave, falsely accused, years in prison. But Allah never mentioned that he kept pain inside him or let out some complaint. But now, when his own brothers spoke, the pain came out again. Meaning human beings are capable of tolerating a lot of difficulty from the outside. But the difficulty that family brings to family is much more difficult to swallow. It's much more difficult to overcome. That's the hardest kind of pain. So the positive words that come from family are more important than anybody else. Some of you have a master's degree. Some of you are accountants. Some of you are engineers, doctors, whatever you are. When you go to the office, people are proud of you. Wow, you're so incredible. Your parents must be so proud of you. Your family must be so proud of you. People want to take a picture with you. People want to just praise you at work, how eloquent you are, how smart you are, how this you are, how that you are. Those praises come to you and they fall off of you because they don't mean anything. Because when you go home, your family, your own family tells you, you're worthless, you're a disappointment, why couldn't you be more like your brother? Why couldn't you be like this? We should have done this, you should have done that. You call that a real job? That's not a real job. You call that a degree? That's not a real degree. This is what family does. And then all those accomplishments mean nothing, because when they mean something is when validation comes, supporting words come from the family. Be careful of these words, they're an amana. These children that we have, this family that we have, the way we speak to them, you have to be very careful. If you have nothing good to say, stay silent. Just don't say anything. And if family is being negative towards you, it's okay. Just walk away. Don't engage with it. Be like Yusuf a.s., keep it to yourself and let it go. Because nothing good will come of furthering that kind of negativity for yourself. We have to take a good look at how we conduct ourselves in our family. Especially the sensitive words we use with our children and what effect it can have long-term in their personalities. What will they turn into? There are people I met, they were called certain names when they were children, and they literally said to themselves, well, that's what my parents think of me, that's how I'm going to act anyway. Because that's what I really am, right? Because who would know me better than my parents? They made that into an excuse to ruin themselves. But it started with them being scarred as kids.